right. Adventure is calling. Cyber 1, light up your way. This is from NovSight. These were the ditch lights that I bought for the Rav. Nice thing about these, and what really turned me on to them, was that they come with not only a cover for protection, but they come with a amber cover, so you can have pretty much highlight or amber. Let's see if I can do this with one hand. It does have a nice little box. Great little box. There we go. All right, so looks like it's got good instructions. Nice. Comes with a harness. That's nice. Nice long harness too, with a pretty simple on and off, which I will actually use a factory OEM switch for the Rav instead of this guy, but that's okay. I use it for something else. Nice. Okay, that's the cover. So it comes with these really neat little covers, and then there's the light. Good, looks good. And then here's the amber. I'll go over it, close to the cover, and then there you go. So I do have my ditch light brackets in the mail too, coming from, I think Cali Raised is where I bought my brackets. So these will go on my brackets once they come in the mail, hopefully in the next few days, and we'll get ourselves some ditch lights. Ooh. So they're really hard bodied, and the covers come off, and it's square, which is nice. So in the dark and stuff, you don't necessarily need to have an up and a down. They just pop off. So they're square, so you can put them on in any direction. I think they're gonna get scratched up pretty quick. I got a feeling, like right now it looks really clean and clear, but I got a feeling it's gonna get scratched up, especially if you leave it in your car somewhere. I mean, it is at the end of the day just plastic. So it clicks on just like that, and then clicks off, and then this is the cover. And again, it's square, so that'll look pretty sharp. Okay, so update. I just pulled this whole thing apart, and it's got a relay on it. Literally, I'm over here pulling out all the stuff I need, right? I'm pulling out my relays, pulling out, well, it's got it attached already. NovSight. They did a good job. All right. There's the brackets. Got it in the mail by Cali Raised. Comes with the hardware, it looks like, of course, I would hope. And I also got the new switch. This is ditch lights. Now, I did just read online that these might not fit, because the Rav4 switch panel on the bottom left apparently has very specific buttons for each slot. Not unlike the FJ, but I had some Cali Raised switches in the FJ that worked fine, but everything online is saying that these didn't fit, so it's kind of interesting. So I don't know, we'll find out. So I removed the panel here on the dash to get to the switches, and it was not too difficult. There's a handful of screws and then these clips at the top. There's overall, I think, 2 screws at the bottom and then 1 bolt. And then if you were like me and you removed this panel, then there was, I think, another screw in the back, something like that. So you don't need to mess with the airbag, of course, but I did detach the hood release. This guy here, I think it was just a little easier for me. Once you get your finger in there, it's actually pretty easy to detach. It's just a cord. And once you get that detached, the whole panel comes off just a little bit easier. I did not remove the gas tank holder, the gas lid, whatever you want to call it, the release. And here's the blank that I'm going to remove. So this blank was a bit of a pain in the butt to get off, but once I realized how to get it off, it wasn't too difficult. If you get 2 flathead screwdrivers, or 1 flathead screwdriver, and get it in there and just wiggle it off, it's not too hard. But you can kind of see in there, there's 2 little grips right there. And if you get a screwdriver in there, flathead, you can just take one off at a time and it'll pop out. And it fits. Imagine that. So that is confirmed. They do fit. Alright, so I'm going to go and install the brackets real quick, just so that they're sitting there and we're done with it. You can kind of see this one does say driver, a D for driver, of course, then there's a P for passenger on the other one. This hood does not have struts on it, but I'll show you a trick if you're doing this alone. So if you remove the first, or the top bolt first, and then put the bracket on, then you will only have to put one, you'll only have to take 1 bolt out at a time. You would think that's a common sense, but it's actually not. I can only tell you how many times, especially with a hood like this that doesn't have shocks or struts on it. If that pops off, then that's a bit of a nightmare. So it will get loose and it could fall. So you don't want to do that. So in this case, as you can see, put one on first, and then loosely, at least, just to keep the hood from moving. And then the second one goes on, and then the bracket itself will actually just pop down into place, just like that. And then the new one, the bolt can go back on. Pretty simple. And then tighten it all up. And you do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so this is such a nightmare to try and show you this, but you can see where the firewall here is. All the way back here, this is on the passenger side behind the glove box. It is a huge piece of plastic. So either you want to pop a hole in there or you want to go around. Now, in order to get to it from the passenger side on the inside, I went in and popped off the bottom here, as well as the glove box itself, and then a few screws on top. Again, not terrible. It's all clips and screws, as you can see. So the glove box comes off pretty easily. If you need better direction on that, just let me know. 3 screws, and again, clips at the top. If you look all the way up here, you can see the light coming through there? That's your grommet. That's your rubber grommet, your firewall. It sucks that it's on the passenger side. I'll say that much. Okay, so I just wired my switch, and these colors are a bit odd. I haven't worked with these before, so I had to do a little bit of research, and I'm not even sure if I got it right. But I put the yellow and red together and the green and white together to make things simple, and then of course the black for ground. The harness has a blue, a white, and a black. So the blue and the white were the ones that I was kind of confused on, but we'll see if it works. Okay, so I put the relay switch on, a pre-existing bolt. Here are the two cords that go to each light, nice and long. And then right here is the fuse, which I did put an extension on because it wasn't long enough. And it goes to the power, the battery. And then here's your ground, which again goes to pre-existing ground that was nearby. And then we go inside. Here's the cord that'll go to the switch. And of course I already popped off the ends, so I have to put those back on. That's okay. I had a feeling that was going to happen. And the light install. Look how clean this is. I put my gloves on because my hands are super dirty, and trying to avoid fingerprints the best I can. I did decide to use some conduit just to keep everything clean, and I'll get it all zip tied and make it look pretty. So just to reiterate, behind the glove box here is the firewall. I ran it behind the audio and came up behind the steering wheel to the switch. So here's the engine bay and the organization. You can see the relay. I got all the extra cordage. Instead of cutting it and re-soldering it and stuff, I just wrapped it up and hid it. Here is I've got everything zip tied nice, and in the conduit all the way down to the other one, which I did the same thing. I wrapped it up and hid it behind here with zip ties. I guess just in case, who knows. Here's the power coming to the battery. And then over here I do have the ground. And as you can tell, they're plenty bright. I'll take it outside a little bit later and film it. And there it is with the white light versus the ambers. They look good. I'm happy with it. Well, I wasn't kidding about those covers getting scratched up easily, because they are already messed up. So I used this foam that came in the box here, and I cut up the foam and made these fun little boxes, or box, I should say, for the two. They fit in here both pretty well, actually, if you nest them together. So in theory, I can keep them from getting too scratched if I just keep them in the foam. So I don't know. I guess we'll see. I'm not sure if they sell replacements or not, but I think this will work for now. Okay, so quick breakdown, because I only have two hands, so I couldn't film a lot of what I was doing easily. So the brackets, the ditch light brackets worked great. The lights work great. All the wiring and harness and everything else worked great. Everything worked great. The switch also works great. It's an OEM switch. It's the square switch. It works great. There's nothing wrong with it. I really wish they would have some kind of better breakdown for which colors go to what things, because I don't know if I did it right, and maybe you can in the comments post what your opinion is of it. But I know there's a lot of ways of doing it. There's simple ways, there's the correct way. If you want to have your switch do certain lights on and off, battery on, battery off. I mean, there's so many things. I'm not an electrician. I don't know a lot about how a lot of this stuff works or anything. I rely primarily with what's online, what's on the forums, what's supplied with the product, what the website says, all that kind of stuff. And unfortunately, there's just not a lot of information out there about which wires really should go to what, because it is dangerous. It can be dangerous if you put the wrong wire where it doesn't belong, of course. I think the way I did it is definitely the bottom of the barrel minimum, simplistic guy that doesn't know what he's doing way of doing things. So I would hope that this video can be an educational tool for other people that are wanting to install these switches. So if you know what the colors are, what they go to, what they should go to, put it in the comments, because there's going to be somebody who watches this video that says, boy, I'm going to watch the comments, or I'm going to read the comments because it's going to answer my question. So I do highly suggest reading those comments and posting if you know a little bit more about it. With that said, everything went smooth. Everything was smooth until I got to the firewall, because I could not find the damn thing. So I looked up online, and pretty much everybody said go through the glove box side, the passenger side, which sucks because the battery's on the other side, and my switch. So if my switch and my battery are on one side, in theory, that's where the relay should go. So when you get in there, I think what's important to what took me longest to figure out was how to get the wiring through
the firewall. Now, normally with my FJ, for example, it wasn't a nightmare because I'd reach in there, poke a hole, put it through, no big deal. This firewall is this big and this thick, and it's full of cords. So I figured I'm going to go ahead and pop a hole best I can, and I'm going to tie up my cords and I'm going to pop it through. It started working fine. I could see it on the other side. Now, mind you, at this point, the actual grommet itself, the actual firewall rubber grommet that is supposed to fit in that hole and stay in that hole, did come off. But because there's cords running through it, you can't take it off, of course. You can't move it out farther. So it was loose, so I could kind of see some light, which was nice. So what I did was I poked the hole through it best I could, and I started running the wires. The problem with it is I had already wired my switch plug before I ran it, which was probably a stupid idea. But I figured, hey, I'll do it before I run the wire, right? Well, the little blue connector was too big. It wouldn't go through the housing, wouldn't go through the firewall. So it got stuck in there. Yeah. And then all the cords took off anyways. I ended up pulling it and all the cords came off. So then I ended up having this little blue connector, which was very required for my switch. I needed that back because it goes in the switch. So I ended up having to cut open more of the firewall, revealing more and more cords. Obviously, it's there for a reason. That firewall's there for a reason, and I end up jacking the firewall up just trying to get cords through. So I do highly suggest, if you are going to make a hole, make sure you're making that hole really, really far outside of that rim, that hole, the actual grommet itself, the actual rubber grommet, and go really far out if you're poking a hole. I got fed up with it, and what I did was I just fed the housing on the outside of the firewall, the grommet, the rubber grommet itself, and I just plugged it back in with the wire going around it. The firewall is there primarily for moisture, bugs, dirt, that kind of stuff. So I hope it'll hold. If it doesn't, then I'm going to figure something else out. But so far, it seems to be doing the job, and it seemed pretty tight last I saw it. So we'll see. Other than that, what I did was after I had the cord coming through behind the glove box, it went behind the glove box, went underneath where the filter is, and I ended up feeding it with a wire behind the dash. So where the audio player is, it went kind of underneath the audio player through. You'll kind of see some light. You can actually run it through that. So I ran it through that, went underneath the front dash where the steering wheel is, and just made sure that it was tight to the bottom, and then let it just roll around. And then I put everything back. Luckily, surprisingly, I didn't have to actually add any wire or cord to it. I thought I was gonna, but it actually made its way across fine. Actually, it was almost perfect length for the switch, where the switch was going to be. But again, I'm not a professional. I don't really know how a lot of this works. So I went and just connected it as the instructions said. So overall, I think this was a success. And this is the first time that I've gone into my dash. So this was really beneficial for me because I got to learn what was different and what was similar to my FJ. So it gave me the opportunity to play a little bit on the inside, and it is much more difficult than it was for my FJ, trying to get back there and trying to find the firewall and trying to get your hands in there. Luckily the switch fit. I was worried the switch wasn't going to fit, and it did fit. So good on you, OEM. After working this project, I am going to buy struts for the front hood. What a nightmare it is to have to pop that stupid little thing off and bring it down and find the hole. Come on, Toyota, really? It's a TRD. Put struts on it, man. Put struts on your hood. Anyways, love you guys. I'll talk to you later. Trip in Arizona, going to Arizona in June. So let's get this set. Let's get this Rav4 where it needs to be.